So earlier this month, we discussed the federal government approving the prohibition of money rituals and the glamorizing of vices in Nigerian films. Joining us now is the Executive Director of the National Films and Censors Board, Mr. Shaibu Hussiene, to discuss the clarification of placing a ban on smoking and rituals in films. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, so when that ban came, and everybody was talking about it, I remember we had a conversation and I tried to find, sense in understanding what the ban is and how it could help also preserve our culture and our story to the world and also our perception. But when I went back and thought about it, I'm like, hey, is this not going to be stifling our creativity in a lot of ways? And I'm glad you're here to clarify what exactly that ban means for the creatives.
All right, thank you for having me. There was no time I mentioned anything about banning smoking scenes. I never pronounced any ban on smoking scenes. But of course, you know that we're in an era where everyone is a journal, and you just pick up a story, you don't even read the story, and then you fly a headline. I even asked a lot of people, after reading the headline, did you read the story? And you found anywhere where I was quoted to have banned smoking scenes and ritual scenes in our movies. The implication of that headline is that in Nigeria, there will be no longer any film that has smoking scene and the rest. How is that even possible?
Oh, wow.
It's not possible. Okay. You see, Nigeria has passed a tobacco act. There's a National Tobacco Control Act, 2019. So since from 2019, there have been so many efforts by different institutions to implement provisions of that act. Agencies like NACA, National Civil Aviation Authority, they have implemented the one on aviation, where you don't smoke in the plane. Formerly, people smoke inside the plane.
Yeah.
But now it's an offense to smoke inside the plane. It's part of the implementation. ARCON and NBC have implemented the one of ban on no TV adverts again. Our responsibility as regulators of content is to ensure that there is no promotion and there's no promotion and glamorization of tobacco, narcotics, money ritual, and all these things in our film. We didn't say that if there are necessary smoking scenes that you require for historical accuracy, that you require for educational purpose, or to correct negative lifestyle, by all means, please have it in the film.
Okay.
But what the new regulation says is that you must give a warning from the beginning of the film that the actors, the filmmakers, no one is there to glorify or glamorize smoking, and it is not. And we please know that smoking is injurious to health at the beginning.
Yeah.
Then, when a smoking scene is on, you just put a liner. Smokers are liable to die young, or whatever information.
That would distract us from the movie, though.
Oh, please, we need it.
Actually, a creative way to do it. As he's smoking, there's a cup on his table that says, smokers are liable to die young. You have done it.
That's a creative way.
Simple as that,
That's not a creative way.
Yeah.
And then, in fact, this thing about creativity you talked about, there's also more creative ways that they do it in Hollywood now. In Hollywood, somebody may be smoking, and the next person says, you're still in this habit? This will help you. This will take you far. And then
the movie continues.
The movie continues, part of the dialogue. And then at the end, you give a warning, just the way you do for animal cruelty, just the way you do for some stuff. You need to let people know that there is a warning that is attached to it. That's what the regulation talks about. Nowhere in the stakeholders' engagement that I had, and you are hearing it on your view, nowhere did I say ban on smoking scenes. It's not even possible. Even the world, they are trying to ban smoking generally. They cannot
succeed.
Yes.
But they have been putting certain regulations in place that will help protect our young ones from not thinking that it is all right. It's a lifestyle to smoke. It's a lifestyle to kill people. In fact, what is even happening about the money ritual thing and the ritual killing thing is that these guys, we have had cases, we have heard of young people who told us that it is from what they saw that they did this.
Yeah.
There's a particular one I saw, and I wrote to the filmmaker, what is the moral
message
of this one? A guy and a lady went on what they call hookup, and took her to the house, drugged her, got her like she was no longer able to know, know what's happening to her. She tied her hands, got her on her knees, then used one knife and did one, and cut off her head.
Oh.
Her head fell down. You know, in the industry, we are very graphic when we show those things.
Yes, we know how to do that.
Cut it, you will see head fall down. Then you see blood gush out. Then the next thing, you start seeing dollars coming out of the head.
What's the meaning of
Dollars
that?
everywhere in the room. What are you trying to tell the person there? But in any case, we are not bothered about content because some people at home, we write you now and say, that's legislating art. No, we will give it the required rating. As a classification board. We will give it the required rating, and then we will tell you, please warn that no head, nobody was injured.
Severed.
No head was severed, nothing. And this thing is just a figment of my imagination as a filmmaker. That's it.
Let's get in more questions.
Okay, so while the Nigerian Film and Censors Board are doing a whole lot in rating movies, I feel that there is very little that they can do because the world has become so global. We're all watching Netflix, and I would see a movie rated 13 on Netflix, and I'll feel, okay, my children should watch it. Hey,
No,
because
13,
what you will see,
13.
that 13 is not what I want my 13-year-old to see, or even my 15-year-old to see. Is it possible for the Nigerian Film and Censor Board to regulate even foreign content that are being shown within our country? That's one. Then social media itself has become content. Like, you are regulating movies, but people are not even movies. People are watching skits have become like, you can spend the next 1 hour watching people doing all sorts of things online and seemingly glorifying and glamorizing the things you just said shouldn't be. So how do we move from just being a regulatory board? How can we update it to the current realities of our content consumption?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. The law gives us the power to classify and to regulate contents that are produced in Nigeria and that are imported to be exhibited in Nigeria. All these platforms you mentioned are basically distribution platforms, like YouTube, like Facebook. They are basically, people make their content and pass it there. But we have discovered when I took over, by the way, I just got appointed in January and I took over in March.
Congratulations.
So it's March to now, it's like 3 months. So, but what I've done between this time that I've taken over is to engage the platform owners and let them know that we have a law in place, you know, and the law says that every content that is produced here or imported to be shown here must be classified by the board, and they will give you the right classification, and then you must ensure that that classification symbol stays on the picture throughout and some of them are complying. But in any case, I told them we have been having a series of engagement with them, and we first told them about the law, and then we now told them a second thing, community standards. Community standards abroad may not be the same community standards with ours here. What is permissible in the United States, for instance, 16 years is the age for becoming a youth. But here is 18. Here is 18.
Even 22.
So there are things that you permit. There you can permit a same-sex content. Our law prohibits same-sex here. So we can't permit all that. So you need to adjust your community standard to suit with us. And they are doing it in other parts of the world. Look, I was in Cyprus, I think, on an official assignment. And then I wanted to watch a musical video of one of our big hits. You know, they said, he has just dropped a video. And I wanted to watch it in Cyprus. Hard as I tried.
You didn't get it?
I didn't get it. On YouTube. They told me this content is restricted
in this area.
And why? Because of certain depictions.
I see those.
There was smoking. In fact, you know, when in theater, we use what they call smoke machine.
Yeah.
You know. But in this particular video, it was the people smoking that There was smoking everywhere. They were drinking, they were carrying bottles of alcohol, heavy alcohol. They were smoking. There was somebody there. You know now, you know, in those days when narcotic use of drugs and the rest is not so prominent, you will just find them, they will spread some chalk on the floor and somebody is doing that. There was somebody consistently in a 3-minute video behind. He was just doing it on the table. He was just doing that on the table. So what we are saying is that these depictions, these glamorization, this promotion, in fact, it's a promotion. You know why? They have stopped the tobacco companies from advertising on television. So they have found film, video,
going into
and
movies,
as an avenue to promote cigarette smoking.
Products.
You know, there was a skit I saw even before I became ED. The skit was a guy sent his younger brother, who was just 7 years old, to go and help him buy cigarettes in a skit. And then the boy went and he said, tell the man there to light the cigarette. The man did it, gave it to the boy. As the boy was coming, he saw flame coming out and wanted to find out how this flame will come out. So the guy got to a junction and dragged 7-year-old boy.
No, that's rubbish.
It's not you.
And they call that his skits.
Yes.
We need to regulate this.
Yes, now.
As a filmmaker, you have to take responsibility.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you that you don't have to write that particular scene in your film.
For a 7-year-old.
No, for a 7-year-old. And then you know what is funny about the skit? He says, how this cigarette comes small like this? He said, go ask Malam. So by the time they went there, Malam said, ask the boy. He now chased the boy. So he fell down on the floor. And then people started laughing. Ha, 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 ha. That was the skit. What's the message?
Nothing.
Nothing.
It wasn't even funny.
That means...
What is the consequences? Because another thing they tell me, oh, once it's negative lifestyle at the end, there's consequences.
Thank you.
He fell down. That was
Sometimes the consequences in some of these our films don't balance
match
with
up
what the story is about.
what the story is about. So you find a man who killed about 7 people in the film because so wealthy in the film.
Enjoyed his life.
How you want to end the film for us is that the man gets mad and starts picking stuff from the dustbin, and then they will now put and say, to God be the glory.
You watch a lot of them. That's your job.
I've been in this business. I've been reporting film for The Guardian since 1998 till last Sunday. I've been doing it. I've been in the business. I know the business. I know them. I know what they do. So this thing is about us taking responsibility. As parents, you know, to watch out for the classification symbols, you know, and as filmmakers, to be careful with the kind of harmful content we pass. We were in Enugu and we had this engagement. Sorry, I beg you. We were in Enugu, we had this engagement. And the filmmaker stood up and said, if he had the knowledge of how smoking has become one of the biggest risk factors for non-communicable diseases, he would have even started to play down on smoking in his film. We are not saying that you should not express yourself, but please, when you do it responsibly, and also try as much as possible to put some warning for our young people, for parents to know that no, their kids are not supposed to see this, or this thing is injurious to health. That's all, though. I didn't ban smoking scene, so I'm telling you before these wonderful ladies and on this program.
We'll just eat you up.
Yeah.
Ramatu?
Okay, so how are you going to ensure that this new stuff is going to be followed, and what if they don't do it? What's going to happen?
That's compliance.
The law is a law. I mean, we just took part of the regulation from the National Tobacco Control Act. We just took it out for our own sector. It's like now telling me what is going to happen to an advertising company or a broadcast company who advertises cigarette, tobacco on the station.
You get penalized.
You get penalized, you know. But for the filmmakers, once we get it gazetted and it's out, we will give a date and have more engagement. They know about the regulation. Nobody should say that they don't. They know. They know they do it. In fact, on YouTube, if you have an unnecessary smoking scene in your film, they demonetize you. They already have it. They demonetize you because they know. They know what's happening. So if you flout the rule, by the time we get the gazette out and we publish it, we'll publish it everywhere. In fact, I will do a shirt and have the regulation published as I'm moving around. It will be on our website everywhere, you know. If you flout it, I think there's a 1 million naira fine there, or a year imprisonment, or both.
Good.
That's what is in the regulation.
Thank you. I was just saying it.
Yes.
But you know, one of the things I also see is just a lack of exposure, lack of education, you know, for a lot of these content creators. So it's not that they have a malicious intent; they just don't know. So what ways are you employing to help Nigerians be more educated on things like this?
All right. We have been having a series of stakeholders engagement, and we will not stop. We had one in the east, we're taking the campaign to the north, and we're taking the campaign to the southwest. We're even going to have it very soon in the southwest. Beyond that, there is a program that was instituted by the board before I came in. It's called the Media Literacy Program. And we hold it like on May 27th when our children were celebrating. We had it all over the country because the board has 36 state offices and 6 zonal offices. And we had it all over. We met the kids and we told them what to look out for in terms of... In fact, at one of the media literacy programs, one kid said something that I just heard now, that, sir, they start a film and they tell us that the film is 16. But when they continue the film, they remove the label. The content you now see is for maybe 14. It's no longer the kind of content that we should watch.
They are scamming viewers.
Well, yes, they are doing that. So we are going to get back to the regulators and tell them that, look, yes,
you have to do it better.
You have to do a better job. You have to take responsibility. And I keep telling these stakeholders since I took over. I told them that, look, I have come to a board that we de-emphasize censorship and do more of classification. That's what happens all over the world. In Britain, is the British Board of Classification. In South Africa, is a classification
You're not
board.
restricting...
No. Do your content, then you get your rating. You get the rating that is required. And you know the thing about rating, if you get a very restrictive rating, your audience will reduce, especially if you are taking it to platforms, major platforms. You know, so we'll continue the engagement. And the engagement is not just with filmmakers, it's with parents.
Yes.
In August, we have what they call the August Meeting Literacy Program. And we're going to meet our Nimamas in the East. You know, they normally have this August meeting. We're going to meet them and say, look, you must be careful. You must take responsibility for what your kids are exposed to.
I'd like to see you guys in schools more.
Yeah,
please.
No, in schools.
More
we do it.
That's very good.
We do it. On May 27th, we were at least, like in Ebonyi State, we pulled 2,000 students from Abakaliki, and what we even do now is to support the schools to bring the kids. Yeah. Because sometimes when you...
And maybe we can talk about how we can put some information in our school curriculum.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that when they are studying, they're already learning that.
It becomes part of it. Yeah.
So how about the North? Have you been able to sensitize the North?
Yes, we're going there.
They don't, they don't give it to us.
Even them, they self-regulate themselves.
They
self-regulate.
Yeah, their cultures.
We should have an industry where the filmmakers themselves take responsibility. This thing is about responsibility, really. It's not really about somebody trying to say, oh, you can't do your art, you can't do your art. But there are other ways to depict art. I saw a film from South Africa recently. It's full of blood. But you will not know that it's blood because it was done in black and white.
Whenever they get to the blood scene.
Yes, they'll just go to black and white. And that's the filmmaker taking responsibility. There are actions that you do. You know, in this country, we're just so blessed. There are some actions that we do that can even make somebody pass out.
Yes.
I saw a skit the other day. The guy was praying, was doing some herbal stuff that the EFCC... Incantation. That the EFCC should not arrest my governor. And Governor Yaya Bello and all that. You know the part that was terrible. And they wrote us from America. The guy got the chicken, bent the neck right in front of camera. There are some, I know some people can even pass out.
Yeah.
Yes.
From just
animal cruelty.
Yes.
And then he now squeezed this chicken that was already doing into a small pot that was not the size of the chicken.
He's an actor himself.
I need to go back to, because you've been giving a lot of examples about skit makers. And my worry is, how do we, because these people, anybody now with a phone is a skit maker.
He's a content creator.
And a content creator. There was a story that broke out. A woman went viral. She did a video in front of her daughter's school. We later realized it wasn't her daughter. Did a video saying they denied the girl from getting into the school, only to find out that she's a content creator that uses the girl for content, and the girl misses a lot of school time because she's being used in content. Now, she comes to school and says, oh, I could not come to school throughout last week. Why? We were doing skits. So if a young girl that is in secondary school is missing school because she's doing skits, we see skit makers just slapping. You will see skit makers, a woman is beating a man beating a woman, and they will say, it's not true, it is skits.
Skits.
Sometimes people have already even carried it and say, we need to find the boy that beat this girl. And they say, no, it's not true, it was just skits. So where do we draw the line between it was just skits and we're trying to make money, and as a society, we don't want to popularize these vices that we're seeing in skits?
Okay, our law presently does not capture people who just have ring lights and then they're entertaining themselves and all that. What our law captures are skit makers who are dramatizing their content. Okay. They have a set, they have costumes, they have dialogue, you know. There's a narrative that has beginning, and they are doing it like it's business. But what the law allows us to do is that we will request these platforms, and have requested. In fact, I think on Monday or Tuesday, one of those platforms will be having a training with my staff in Abuja. They are going to give us a deck that is required everywhere in the world. What the deck does is that if we have a reporting system where you call us and say, oh, this content, this is this content, and all that, misleading content, then we call their attention to it and tell them that this content is a problem, that we need to watch out for this content. And we have done it. I did it when they started that stuff about somebody burying himself alive and all those stuff.
Yes, that one.
We reported.
7 days.
What kind
Yes,
of
it's
content is
suicide.
that?
You're just suicide. And the law is against even somebody taking his own life.
Because it's not your life.
You know?
You don't
Yes, you know. So we insisted that they must all give us a deck as we go into our next regime of classification. They give us a deck where people can report to us, and then even our monitoring capacity, we see anything like that, we call their attention to it. Now we even found that they have moved from doing the skits to doing live. They can even go live sometimes. It's not covered in the law yet, but we have a deck now where we can report to the content, the platform owners, and say, no, this one does not. It goes against our community standards. You know, we don't take lives.
What are our own local classifications? So apart from the age, like if you watch Hollywood movie, the NSFW.
Yes, VNL.
Yes.
What is our own local to us, or is it an international standard that applies to all countries?
Yes, we follow standards. We follow the international standards, and then we have one that we don't even pray that we should implement, which is a restriction, the R. Okay. And that's because by our culture, by our religion, you can't even do like porn. Okay. You can't openly, you can't do it. You can't submit a film about throughout, there's nudity in the film and all those stuff. You can't do that. Then you cannot even do any film that threatens our national security, you know, as a country, that divides us as a people. You know, you can't do such a film. So those ones will put restriction, R. And you know, once you have a restriction, you can't show it in any public place. You can't show it on TV, on any platform that will be seen by more than you and your family members.
Scatter the movie.
Those are the things that they say is underground.
Yeah. Those ones, they go underground. But the next regime that we are going into is a regime where anyone who is doing any skit, any content must pass it through the board for classification. It's just for classification. We're not telling you to go and remove a smoking scene from it. If it is necessary for historical accuracy, for educational purpose, and to correct a negative lifestyle. Yeah,
one last question before we go. How do you want Nigerians to aid this work you're doing? How do we take responsibility? We, the consumers, what do you expect us to do when we come across certain things that are not in alignment with what we want for our society?
We condemn it. We report it. We have put some hotlines for them. Okay. And what I've even tried to do is to make sure that hotline is free. So, I mean, it's a toll-free line.
Yes, so you're not paying to report.
Yes. So because you are not paying to report. And, you know, engagements like this also help us, because I'm just going to go on your timeline now on Twitter to check responses and feedback from people. I was on radio yesterday, and people were telling me exactly some films that I must go and watch. Imagine. Because this film, this is what they are doing in the film that is not right. No, you know, feedback like that. Yes. But we must all, as parents, as future parents, let me say that those who are still single now and the rest, we must take responsibility. It's not for us. It's for our children. It's for our youth who are very impressionistic.
Very.
I tell you, as a small boy, let my mommy don't hear this one. I watched a TV where they were smoking. I went to cut my notebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I tried it.
Very impressionistic.
When I found out that I can't use match, and I got my mommy's powder and put inside, and I was blowing everywhere. These kids are very impressionistic, but they also read. So you must warn them. This thing, it will kill you.
Thank you so much, sir. We've been speaking with the Executive Director of the National Films and Censors Board, Shaibu Hussiene, who has come to explain to us the meaning of the ban. And I hope that everybody has gotten the message. And that's all we can take on the show today. It's going to be a very lovely weekend, by the grace of God. And your View Pageant starts tomorrow. Don't miss it. We'll see you again on Monday. Bye-bye now.